Hey, I am Andrew.
Today we're tackling the insulin resistance diet.
That's good.
We've got this article from WebMD. It's called Insulin Resistance Diet: How to Use Diet to Prevent Diabetes.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that one. Lots of good stuff in there.
Definitely. But honestly, even just thinking about it, I'm already feeling a little,
Overwhelmed.
yeah, kinda. There's so much info out there, it's hard to know where to start.
I hear ya.
So maybe like the most basic question, what exactly IAA, insulin resistance?
Okay, so think of insulin as like a key.
Okay.
And that key unlocks your cells to let in glucose, sugar
Right,
from your blood to give you energy.
makes sense.
But with insulin resistance, those cells, they kind of become resistant to insulin signal.
Like the key's there, but the door's stuck.
Exactly. Your pancreas is working overtime, pumping out more insulin, trying to force those cells open.
And if that keeps up,
You can get prediabetes and eventually type 2 diabetes.
see, that's what worries me. But I mean, the article says diet can help a lot, right? With managing it, maybe even preventing it altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. What you eat has a huge impact on how sensitive your body is to insulin.
So where do we even begin?
Hmm?
The article talks about good carbs and bad carbs. Is that like a real thing?
It's a good way to think about it, yeah. Some carbs, they digest super fast, spikes your blood sugar. Like kindling wood burns bright but goes out quick. Then you've got other carbs, the good ones. They're more like a slow burning log.
Yeah.
Steady energy.
I like that analogy.
It all comes down to the glycemic index, or GI. Measures how quickly a food races your blood sugar.
So high GI is...
Why eat bread? You want to avoid those big spikes.
Gotcha. So then the good carbs, the slow burning ones, what are those? I know the article mentions veggies.
Veggies are your best friend here. Non-starchy ones, especially. Spinach, broccoli, all that good stuff.
Okay, so load up on the greens, but what about fruit? Is that okay?
Fruit's a bit trickier. It's got vitamins and minerals and fiber, which is great.
Right. But it also has natural sugars, contributes to your total carbs. So enjoy it, but in moderation, and definitely fresh over processed.
Fresh over processed, check. And speaking of things that are good for you, the article mentions fiber, like a lot.
Fiber is amazing. It's like, imagine a sponge. Slows down how fast your body absorbs glucose, prevents those crazy blood sugar spikes.
I see.
And get this, if you get over 50 grams of fiber a day,
Wow, 50. That seems like a lot.
it can seriously improve your insulin sensitivity.
Where do you even find that much fiber?
Lots of places.
Yeah.
Almonds, black beans, lentils, even oatmeal's got a good amount.
Okay, not bad.
And here's another thing. There are actually two types of fiber, soluble and insoluble.
Oh, so it's not just the amount, but the type, too.
Yeah. Soluble dissolves in water, turns into a gel in your gut, slows everything down.
Interesting.
Insoluble, it adds bulk to your, helps things move along, but not as much impact on blood sugar.
Got it. So it's about picking the right kind of fiber, too. This is already making me rethink my grocery list. Good. And remember, it's not all about what to avoid. There's so much delicious, satisfying food that can actually HELP your insulin sensitivity.
That's good to hear. Speaking of delicious, what about protein? The article says lean protein is important.
Yeah, it's crucial. It's like the building block for your muscles and tissues, and it digests slowly, helps keep your blood sugar steady.
Okay, so like chicken breast, fish, stuff like that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Skinless chicken, fish like salmon and tuna, those are great choices. And don't forget plant-based options, beans, lentils, tofu. They've got protein without all the saturated fat.
So we've got veggies, fruits, fiber, protein. Well, what about fats? I feel like they have a bad reputation, but the article says not all fats are created equal.
You're right, not all fats are the enemy. Healthy fats are important for your overall health, and they can actually help improve your insulin sensitivity.
Okay, now I'm really intrigued. Tell me more about these good fats.
Think olive oil, avocados, nuts, and seeds. Those have monounsaturated and polyunsaturated fats, which are good for your heart. A and D can help with insulin sensitivity. The key is to limit saturated and trans fats.
So olive oil instead of butter, avocado toast instead of a bacon cheeseburger.
Got it.
What about dairy? I've heard mixed things about dairy and how it affects your health.
Dairy is interesting. There's a lot of debate about it, but some studies show that low-fat dairy, like skim milk and plain non-fat yogurt, might actually help lower insulin resistance. Plus, you get calcium and protein.
Really? Low-fat dairy helping with insulin resistance. That's a surprise. Are there any other unexpected foods that might be beneficial?
This one might surprise you, but legumes like beans, lentils, and chickpeas are linked to better insulin sensitivity. They're full of fiber and protein, which makes them great for blood sugar control. Studies have even shown that they can help manage type 2 diabetes symptoms.
Wow, legumes. They're quickly becoming some of my favorite foods. So far, it sounds like an insulin resistance diet is actually full of delicious and nutritious options. Lots of veggies, some fruit, high fiber foods, lean protein, healthy fats, and maybe even some low-fat dairy and legumes.
You got it. And the best part is, it's not about depriving yourself. It's about embracing all these amazing foods that nourish your body and help you reach your health goals.
It really is amazing how good healthy food can be.
Mm-hmm.
But there are some foods that we should probably avoid, right? Like the article talks about.
Right. And it's not about saying those foods are bad or anything, but just understanding why they might not be the best for insulin sensitivity. Let's start with processed foods. They often have a lot of added sugar, unhealthy fats, and way too much sodium.
It's crazy how much of that stuff sneaks into packaged foods. I'll admit, sometimes I'm just grabbing something quick and I don't even look at the label.
We've all been there. But being aware of those hidden ingredients is a big step in the right direction. And speaking of unhealthy fats, saturated and trans fats are really bad for insulin resistance.
Didn't we talk about those earlier when we were discussing healthy fats? What makes them so different from the good ones?
Well, saturated and trans fats can actually mess with how insulin signals to your cells. It's like they're blocking those keys from unlocking your cells. They really make it hard for your body to use glucose the way it should.
So they're not just bad for our hearts, they're messing with our blood sugar too.
Exactly. And you'll mostly find those unhealthy fats in fatty meats, full-fat dairy products, and fried foods.
Okay, so ditch the deep fryer and try baking, grilling, or roasting instead. What about sweetened drinks? Those are on the avoid list too, right?
Definitely. Sweetened drinks contribute to weight gain, and carrying extra weight, especially around your belly, can lead to insulin resistance. It's a vicious cycle.
So it's not just the sugar itself, it's the extra weight that can cause problems.
Yep. And we're not just talking about soda. A lot of juices, sports drinks, and even smoothies have a ton of added sugar.
Good point. Got to read those labels carefully.
Yeah.
Now, what about refined carbs? The article mentioned those.
Refined carbs are basically stripped of all their nutrients and fiber. You get a quick burst of energy, then you crash. Think white bread, white rice, sugary cereals. They cause your blood sugar to spike, then plummet, which puts a lot of stress on your insulin production.
So it's not just about how many carbs we eat, but what kind of carbs they are. Whole grains instead of refined grains, right?
Exactly. Choosing whole grains like brown rice, quinoa, or whole wheat bread gives you a slower, steadier release of energy. Much better for your blood sugar and insulin levels.
It's like choosing that slow-burning log over the quick-flaring kindling. And last but not least, we have alcohol. How does alcohol affect insulin resistance?
For most people, drinking alcohol in moderation isn't a huge problem. But if you drink heavily
Over a long period of time, it can increase your risk of both insulin resistance and diabetes.
So moderation is key, as with most things in life. Okay, we've covered the good and the bad when it comes to food choices. But honestly, I think a lot of people struggle with finding that balance, with making healthy eating a sustainable lifestyle change. What are your tips for actually putting all this knowledge into practice?
That's a great question. It's not about being perfect. It's about making small changes over time that you can actually stick with.
That'd be steps, right?
Exactly. And remember, there's no one-size-fits-all approach. What works for one person might not work for another. So explore different recipes, experiment with flavors, and find healthy foods that you actually enjoy eating.
That makes a lot of sense. It's not about following a strict diet. It's about finding what works for you.
Right. And another thing to keep in mind is meal timing. Remember that myth about skipping meals to lose weight?
Oh, yeah. I used to think skipping breakfast would help me shed some pounds. Now I realize it was probably doing the opposite.
Yeah, skipping meals can actually mess with your blood sugar balance and lead to your body storing more fat, especially around your belly.
Which, as we know, is linked to insulin resistance. It's all connected.
It is. So aim for consistent meals and snacks throughout the day to help keep your blood sugar and insulin levels in check.
Consistency is key.
Yeah.
What about counting calories? Is that still important?
It's definitely part of the equation, but it's not the only thing that matters. Don't just focus on the number of calories, focus on the quality of those calories. Choose foods that are packed with nutrients rather than empty calories.
So we're looking for foods that give us energy, but also vitamins, minerals, and fiber. Quality over quantity.
Got it.
And the article also mentioned the importance of variety.
Variety is essential. When you eat a variety of foods, you're more likely to get all the nutrients your body needs. Plus, it keeps your meals interesting and enjoyable.
Love that. It's not about restricting ourselves. It's about expanding our culinary horizons, exploring all the amazing healthy foods out there.
Exactly. And to give you a better idea of how this all works in practice, the article actually includes a sample meal plan. It looks pretty delicious, actually.
Let's hear it. What are some of the highlights?
Well, for breakfast, they suggest things like egg whites, oatmeal with berries, plain non-fat yogurt, or whole wheat toast with avocado.
Those all sound like great ways to start the day. What about lunch?
They recommend a big salad with lots of veggies, lean protein like grilled chicken or fish, and a healthy fat like olive oil dressing. Or you could have a turkey or chicken sandwich on whole wheat bread with lots of fresh veggies.
Yum. And for snacks?
They keep it pretty simple. Non-fat yogurt with berries, a handful of almonds, or some fresh fruit. And for dinner, they suggest something like salmon or tuna baked with herbs and spices, a variety of roasted vegetables, and a small portion of brown rice or quinoa.
It really helps to see what a day of eating for insulin resistance could look like. And it doesn't sound restrictive or boring at all.
Exactly. It's all about finding ways to enjoy healthy eating and make it a sustainable part of your lifestyle. If we look at the big picture, it's about creating balanced meals with lean protein, plenty of non-starchy vegetables, some healthy fats, and a limited portion of complex carbohydrates. And don't forget those fiber superstars, beans, lentils, and chickpeas.
Okay, so let's recap the key takeaways from this deep dive.
Well, first and foremost, diet plays a huge role in preventing and managing both prediabetes and type 2 diabetes.
And we have the power to make food choices that either help or hurt our insulin sensitivity.
There are certain foods that are like allies in this battle. We talked about loading up on vegetables, fruit, fiber, lean protein, healthy fats, low-fat dairy, and legumes. And we talk about why we should avoid processed foods, sugary drinks, refined carbs, and unhealthy fats.
We learned about the glycemic index and why it's important to choose carbs that release energy slowly rather than causing those rapid blood sugar spikes.
Right. And we discussed some practical strategies for making healthy eating a sustainable part of our lives. Things like making gradual changes, finding what works for you personally, and prioritizing regular nourishing meals.
So it's not about being perfect, it's about making progress.
Exactly. Even small changes can have a big impact. Don't get overwhelmed. Just pick one or two new healthy habits and start incorporating them into your routine.
Great advice. Now, knowing what you know now, how are you going to incorporate some of these foods into your daily routine? What small change are you going to make to improve your insulin sensitivity?
That's a good question. You know, I'm feeling inspired to try some new recipes with those fiber-rich legumes we were talking about, maybe a lentil soup or a black bean salad. What about you?
You know what? I think I'm going to try swapping out my usual white rice for quinoa a few nights a week. It's a small change, but I'm curious to see how it makes me feel.
I love that. And for our listeners who want to learn even more, we might do a future deep dive about exercise and how it affects insulin resistance, because diet and exercise go hand in hand when it comes to health.
Absolutely. We'll have to add that to our list of future deep dives. In the meantime, keep those questions and comments coming. We love hearing from you. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep on learning. Small changes, big impact.
I like that. This deep dive has been honestly eye-opening. I feel like I get it now,
Yeah.
how the food I eat really ties into my health.
That's awesome. And you know, it's cool. There's still so much research going on in this area. We're always learning new things about how diet, insulin, and just like feeling good are all connected.
It really makes you realize we do have some control over it, right? One bite at a time.
Absolutely.
So as we're wrapping up, any last bits of wisdom for everyone listening?
I'd say don't underestimate those little changes. Seriously. Like add more veggies to your plate, swap a sugary drink for water, choose whole grains instead of the refined ones. It all adds up over time.
Makes sense. And be patient. It takes a while to make those changes stick, to figure out what works for you.
Good reminder. Now, thinking about everything we've talked about,
Yeah.
how would you personally start incorporating this stuff? What's one small change you could make today to like boost your insulin sensitivity?
Ooh, good question. I'm kind of tempted to try some new recipes with those legumes, the fiber-rich ones we talked about. Maybe
Yeah.
a lentil soup or a black bean salad. What about you?
Funny you should say that. I was actually thinking I'd swap out white rice for quinoa a couple times a week. See how that goes.
I love it. And hey, For anyone listening who wants to go even deeper, maybe we do another deep dive sometime on exercise, how that plays into managing insulin resistance.
Definitely. We'll put that on the list. But for now, keep those questions coming. We always want to hear from you guys. So until next time, stay curious, stay informed, and keep on learning.